So I need to start this video out by saying I really dislike subscription-based plugins. I think for the most part that companies are using it to force plugin users to pay rent. And the fact that you never truly own your software means that you will always be paying rent on these subscriptions for any inconceivable amount of time. And plugin manufacturers bank on you, like with the gym membership, potentially either forgetting you have it or being too scared to just unsubscribe. And this is a topic that's being covered by lots and lots of YouTubers. But what I want to look at is a couple of potential positives for being on subscription, or certain cases where a subscription actually might be useful. Now, don't get me wrong, I still really dislike subscriptions. I try to own as much equipment as I can and as many plugins as I can within reason. And I hope that once I buy a piece of hardware or software, that's it. That's all I pay for on that device. But recently I was working with some artists in the studio where we were doing a bunch of vocal production and we needed Entera's Auto-Tune. And usually when I have a client in, I will just buy the plugins that they need within reason. But when I looked at the price of Entera's products right now, they're eye-wateringly expensive. In fact, so expensive that they are comparable in price to DAWs to buy outright. It's actually kind of insane. Like, I can literally buy Ableton or Cubase for the price of owning essentially just Auto-Tune. And look, whatever, that's their business model, that's fine. However, in cases like this where I have clients come in, sometimes a subscription is actually a handy thing because I can purchase the subscription and only pay for the plugin for the amount of time I need it for. So the first scenario where subscriptions might be useful is just paying for a piece of software as you need it. Now, I still think the Entera's products are maybe a little bit overpriced. However, that's also because the Australian dollar sucks at the moment. It is way down against the US dollar. So we're paying almost double what Americans are paying for their subscriptions, and that really hurts in the bank. I can be honest about that for sure. So getting away from just Auto-Tune specifically, software companies like Avid, Ableton, and other plugin manufacturers actually offer really affordable rates on their DAWs or their plugins. And if you're someone that's just starting out and are unsure whether you want to go all the way in and purchase a DAW outright, a subscription is a really good answer because you can just pay for it for a month or two, or in the case of my students that I teach on a regular basis, they can just get the subscriptions. So for instance, I teach on both Ableton and Pro Tools, and some students need both and they can't afford both pieces of software. However, they can afford the subscriptions on a monthly basis. So there are cases where subscriptions can be really useful for newcomers to the industry, students that are studying, and then for professional users like myself when we have a client come in and a plugin is kind of that little bit too expensive to buy outright. Subscription is kind of an okay answer. Now, let's just remember that I still think $700 to $800 for Auto-Tune is probably a bit of a stretch. And I know they offer other things in their bundles, but Entera's, let us buy just Auto-Tune at a fair price. There, I said it. I don't know if you guys agree with me. Do you think Entera's Auto-Tune is overpriced? I personally do. Hit me up in the comment sections down below. Maybe you think it's fair. I don't know. Subscriptions aren't all bad. If you're trying to take your first steps into figuring out what you want to do musically, subscriptions can be a good thing. Now, number two, the second reason why subscriptions are good is something that a lot of people don't really talk about and I don't hear discussed enough online. But in Australia, if you're buying software outright, anything over $300, any audio equipment over $300, you need to provide your accountant with a receipt. However, anything under the amount of $300, you do not need a tax receipt. So if you are subscribing to things like a DAW or like the aforementioned Entera's Auto-Tune or any other DAW or software plugin manufacturer, any purchase you make under $300, you can claim without a receipt when you go to your accountant and do your tax return. Now, when you start to think about it this way, if you're paying monthly installments at $24, you can claim each of those installments as separate purchases on your tax. So subscriptions are actually sometimes the better option for claiming your software for tax purposes. Now, this doesn't apply to just monthly subscriptions. Sometimes a yearly subscription often comes in under that $300 mark. So DAWs, certain software plugins might be for a year subscription, $299 or $250 or something around that ballpark. You don't need a receipt. You can just claim that straight on your tax. So to make sense of all this, if you are paying tax, if you're earning money off doing your music and you pay tax as a business, you should be coming up with deductibles, things you can claim on tax to get some of that tax money back. So things like plugins are an easy way to reclaim some of that taxable income. So as I said before, this is one that I haven't seen discussed enough, but you should be looking forward to the next year and looking at roughly how much tax you pay and how you can claim certain goods in your tax returns. Now, the third reason subscriptions can be actually kind of a beneficial thing sometimes is that they actually can allow you access to a wider range of plugins in bundles. So for instance, if you subscribe to something like Universal Audio, you can get access to their entire suite, or any of the other companies that bundle plugins together like Plugin Boutique, or any of those other companies that you all know about. You actually get access to a huge array of different plugins, and you can get started on mixing right away for, in most cases, actually a quite affordable price. Some of you might not know this, but back in the day, companies like Waves and Universal Audio, up until very recently, their plugins were very expensive to buy outright. Waves didn't always sell their plugins on special all year round. There was a time where Waves plugins cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars each. This was actually true for all of the Universal Audio plugins as well. So in some cases, if you were gonna buy just one plugin, it could cost you hundreds of dollars, and now you can get a whole suite of plugins for much, much less than that. So just to recap some of the potential benefits for plugin subscriptions. Number one is that you can use the plugin for a determined amount of time only as you need it, and therefore save some money. Number two, you can further save money by claiming plugin purchases when you do your tax return. And number three, you can actually get a huge catalog of plugins for a relatively affordable price in most cases. Now, do I still dislike subscriptions? Yeah, for the most part, because if you add up the amount of money you would spend on a subscription, let's play devil's advocate and say I subscribe to Pro Tools for the next 10 to 20 years of my career. Then on top of that, I subscribe to a bunch of other plugin manufacturers. I'm spending potentially hundreds, if not thousands of dollars every year just on plugins. Now, I could use those thousands of dollars to potentially purchase other things like good quality microphones, hardware, acoustic treatment, and other studio necessities that I won't ever need to pay rent on. I can own them forever. Now that's gonna be my next video. So if you wanna hear some reasons why maybe you should not subscribe to plugins, make sure you subscribe to my channel by clicking subscribe down below, and let me know what you think. Do you like subscriptions? Are there some reasons I missed? Do you think there are some valid reasons to subscribe to plugins that I haven't talked about? Do you absolutely hate subscriptions and subscribing to plugins? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I'm Mitch from the DIYRecordingstudio.com. I'll catch you soon.